So that's it, huh? No Daredevil this week? How long will I have to be in this hell? SheHulk, episode... What episode are we on? 6. Episode 6. And if you thought last week's episode was a filler, well, wait until you see this one. But of course, before we get into anything, guys, if you enjoy my content and you want to see more, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. The episode begins with Jen getting invited to a wedding because the question on every MCU fan's mind is, what happens when a superhero goes to a wedding? So Jen packs her She-Hulk dresses and begins a nice Slay Queen moment. Because God knows we need more of those to make this show better. She-Hulk, of course, brings a lot of attention, so the bride asks her to not be She-Hulk for the wedding. She just wants her to be just Jen. I will say the CGI does look a little bit better during this scene. Not up to the MCU standards, in my opinion, but it's better than what we've seen before. Back in the office, we see Nikki helping out Mallory, our lawyer from the last episode, with a case. This case is about a guy named Mr. Immortal. Yes, you guessed it. Based off his name, his superpower is he doesn't die. Now, right off the bat, you might be thinking, how will the writers and the showrunners use this character? Go ahead. Sit down. Think about some creative ways that this character can be used in this show. Done? Okay. Here's the solution the writers came up with. He got married to a bunch of people, and when the relationship got a little too much for him, he ended himself. I mean, this is just typical men. Am I right? After discussing a defense with Mallory and Nikki, Mr. Immortal does what I want to do every time I watch this show. So the first question on every MCU fan's mind was answered, right? What happens when a superhero goes to a wedding? But now, the second question on every MCU fan's mind is going to be answered in this episode as well. The question is, Team Edward or Team Jacob?
Lulu, Team Edward or Jacob?
Oh my, let it rest. You know I dated both those actors.
So I guess this means Twilight is canon in the MCU now. But that means My Chemical Romance is also canon in the MCU now too. Because if you didn't know, the author of Twilight was inspired by My Chemical Romance. And actually, My Chemical Romance was inspired by... you know what? Never mind. At the wedding, we see Titania is there. Finally, some drama and continuity from last episode. Because if you don't remember, previously, Titania said, and I quote, to Jen, "This isn't over." After a little back and forth, Jen walks outside and gets greeted by a possible new love interest. I don't want to see any more love interests unless they were a former professional wrestler.
Are you sure about that? John Cena!
Back to Mr. Immortal, we get to meet the ladies and gentlemen he had relationships with. We learn that it is way worse than Mr. Immortal described it to be. He's going to have to pay a lot to these exes if he doesn't want to be put in prison. So, this is the best the writers can do with our character, Mr. Immortal. Mr. Immortal says he will pay back all of them, but an argument breaks out, and Nikki and Mallory have to find a solution for each of the exes. Jen gets a little wasted at the wedding and begins to dance. After a quick puke and rally, Titania sucker punches Jen, and we get a episode 1 rematch. Okay, I just want to point something out here. The DJ has a blowhorn, right, and uses it to announce the big superhero fight. But they play this sound. That is not what real air horns sound like, and I am sick and tired of air horns being misrepresented in TV shows and media. Anyways, the fight ends with Titania slipping on ice, messing up her face, and she just leaves. I mean, this is the best villain in the MCU, right? After a successful settlement, Nikki and Mallory discover a website with a whole page dedicated to hating She-Hulk. I'm going to take a guess here. I'm going to say that the writers and showrunners thought this was what QAnon was.
And then we'll have a site that's like QAnon, you know QAnon. And then they're all white supremacists and they hate She-Hulk because they're sexist and racist.
The last scene, we see an anonymous figure named Hulk King working in a lab with the needle those goons had earlier this season. Seems like he has a new and improved needle to puncture She-Hulk's skin. And then the episode ends. Now you might be wondering, wasn't Daredevil teased in the last episode? Yeah, he was. And he didn't show up in this episode? No, he didn't. You feel that pain? That's what we like to call being blue-balled. So, She-Hulk episode 6, what do we think of it? It's still pretty bad. Now, I will give credit where credit is due. I do love the continued continuity, especially with this episode. We see Titania still being mad and wanting revenge against Jen. And we also see this Hulk King character wanting Jen's blood for some reason. So hopefully these plot points, come together and build over the last few episodes. But after this episode, I feel confident in saying that this show should have been a 6-episode series. Half the time watching the show, I just get the feeling that it's mostly all filler. They knew they had 9 episodes and they needed to fill each episode with some sort of content. There was also some missed opportunities this week. They had a superhero whose power was not dying. And the best storyline they could come up with is settling a lawsuit with a bunch of exes. I just feel like there could have been a way more interesting plot line than that. Now, if you're going to come after me and say,
"Oh, you're no writer. Why don't you write a better story?"
Well, you would be correct. I couldn't write a better story. But this is also the same company and production that made the Infinity Saga. That's the type of writing we expect with these shows. Did you guys watch She-Hulk episode 6? If you did, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a like. And if you want to see more content just like this, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. To catch up on all my other videos, click on this link right here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.